one of the reasons why we digitize the user experience is because a significant number of our customers demand it, right? Because of the regulatory framework, we actually know the processes of actually onboarding a customer, for example. And it's up to us to innovate around those frameworks. So there's a number of projects already underway as well, that is looking to not only enhance what we've got, but also introduce new capabilities.
This episode of ITWeb TV is brought to you in association with ITWeb Security Summit, the must-attend gathering for IT, security, and business decision makers. Visit itweb.co.za for more information. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to ITWeb TV. We have another amazing episode for you today. Joining me in studio is the Chief Digital Officer of Absa Everyday Banking, Subash Sharma. Subash, thank you so much for being with us today, and thank you for joining us at ITWeb TV.
No, thank you. Thank you for having me, and looking forward to it.
Just so that we can start off this interview on a light note before we get into technology, can you just tell us shortly about how you got to being the Chief Digital Officer of Absa?
Yeah, sometimes it's by design, and sometimes I think it's by mistake. So it depends. I'm an engineer by background, so solving analytical problems, working in engineering, working in technology has always been something that I've been quite passionate about. When I was studying, I had a fascination for robotics, and I think it only became natural that when an organization like Absa came calling and that opportunity presented itself, it was a massive opportunity for me to jump at. And, I've been there now for a very long time because it's an awesome place to work. And they have helped me grow at every step in my career. And, and I'm the product of that grooming and that mentorship and that love that you get in an Absa environment. So that's how I actually got into this position.
Sounds like it's been quite a journey to get to where you are today. Just so that everyone can sort of understand, what exactly is a Chief Digital Officer? And for layman's terms, what is everyday banking?
Yeah, I think when people ask me what is a Chief Digital Officer, we are the people that pick up the phone and help customers when they're stuck. We are the people that, hug our people to make sure that they can give their best. I think we are the person that makes the coffee in the team. But more importantly, our responsibility is to create and solve problems that our customers experience. Our responsibility is to design products and services so that we create a meaningful difference in the people's lives that we serve. As a financial services provider, Absa prides itself in trying to not only be ahead and be in the forefront of our customer needs, but making sure that we make a difference in their lives in everything that we do. So, being the person that is responsible for digital, I have a significant accountability to actually help our organization make that a material reality. As you know, the world is now going mobile.
Yeah.
Everything is now digital. There's significant trends in terms of what you can and can't achieve in digital. And that gives us a significant level of responsibility, but it also gives us a lot of tools at our disposal to look at how we make things easier, to look at how do we bring new products that people haven't thought about before. But at the end of the day, these products need to serve our customers' needs, and being very close to the demands of your customer and making sure that we solve for them in a human-centered way is what we're about.
And we're here today to talk about money and, of course, what Absa is doing around the fintech industry. But a lot of people might not know what everyday banking is. So please explain to our viewers and myself as well, what exactly is everyday banking?
So everyday banking is exactly in the same words. It is the banking that people need on an everyday basis. So Absa is a full service bank, and we offer all the various financial services that our customers need. But the way we manage those different businesses is by dividing them into, the products and services that customers need every day, which is your credit cards, your check accounts, your payment services, an overdraft or a loan or a savings and investment portfolio. And then we distinguish that between what we call relationship banking, which is business banking, where there's a relationship banker that actually helps you do your particular business, as well as the very special products cluster that looks after your insurance products, your vehicle finance, as well as your home loans.
Yeah. Obviously, as you've mentioned, we are in now the fourth industrial revolution, as most people call it, and there's all this digitization and all this technology being introduced to everyday things that we use. So what are some of the tech that Absa has put into their system to help customers with their everyday banking?
They need to have that reassurance that your money is safe.
Yeah.
And what we do in digital is we provide that as a warranty. We provide all our customers on all our digital channels a warranty of transactions. So if you are defrauded, we'll return that. And the way we are able to do that is by investing in significant data as well as technology capabilities, so that we can provide the best-in-class security services, so that we can keep those promises. As examples, we have significant levels of data that allows us to detect when these types of activities are happening to our customers. We have one of the largest what's called facial biometric store in our disposal. So what that means is we use our own facial recognition software as part of our digital channels, so that we are able to not only reset your PINs and passwords safely without you having to go to the branch, but also make it very simple for you to onboard, but also protect you at the same time to make sure that it is you that is actually using the service.
And, you speak of the safety and the privacy. And, of course, there's also the innovation behind digital banking. I know Absa recently had a ChatWallet that they've introduced, which is basically banking enabled through WhatsApp. Can you just tell us a little bit more about why introduce something like a ChatWallet, and what are some of the benefits that people can expect from the Absa ChatWallet?
Yeah, so our history on working with Meta and working with Facebook and WhatsApp goes back many years. I was privileged enough to get access to what's called the Facebook beta program, and we were the first bank or first institution in the world to launch banking products on a WhatsApp channel. And we did that in 2018 as part of our Absa relaunch. And when we did that, we always had an ambition in mind in terms of how do we make it secure? How do we make it a more product-centric offering? Because that particular offering just looked at another channel, another way for you to use your same account, but in a different way. What we tried to do with ChatWallet was we tried to look at what products and services are needed by the market. So what are the problems that people currently have? Why don't they have access to certain bank accounts? Why are there certain barriers? And what we learned was that cost is definitely sometimes a barrier. Access to data in terms of downloading apps and things like that is quite prohibitive. But we know that a significant majority of our market base is active on WhatsApp. Yeah. And what we tried to do was design a product that is the simplest in the market, the safest in the market, and the most intuitive way to use. And that's what we tried to do with this particular offering. So it started with how am I able to open an account in the most simplistic way?
Yeah.
And without our investment in the last couple of years on biometric software and so on and so forth, this dream of being able to do that would not be a reality. So we are building on top of previous inventions or previous investments that we've made. And what we are able to see now is the picture coming together. So we are able to open that account now in a few seconds by leveraging those capabilities, and we are able to securely do it on WhatsApp. And that's the only reason now we have launched this ChatWallet product.
And, looking at the other three of the big four banks that we have here in South Africa, it seems to me that Absa is the first one to really try and simplify digital banking for its customers. Why is it so important that Absa be at the forefront of innovation and basically simplifying the user experience for everyday South Africans?
I guess to answer that question in a very non-digital way, the objective of what we try to do is to make sure that we are there for our customers.
Yeah.
And being there for your customers means to understand the problems they go through, to understand it is not nice when you need your money, but it's stuck somewhere and you have to phone the call center. It is not nice that you have to get into public transport, get to a branch to be able to access banking services. And it's also not nice when your banking and digital products become so complicated that it's very difficult to understand, where do I go for this? How do I use this? Because it can be quite scary for our different generations of customers, and it can be quite scary if we just force everybody to use a particular way of doing things. So why we believe it's very important is we need to understand, how do we best serve our customer? And if that becomes our internal focus in a human empathetic way, right? Because I try not to talk about too much of the technology that we do, because the technology that we use and we utilize has only one purpose, and that is, how do we make the lives of our customers better? And how do we do it in a very human and empathetic way?
And it's great that you speak of the societal challenges that we have here in South Africa. I mean, having to travel far distances just to reach an ATM, or having to have data and internet access to do banking on your cell phone. A lot of banks have introduced simpler ways to do it. One of them has been tap to pay. And, recently FNB obviously announced that they'll cancel their in-house tap to pay function, which is on their app. When we look at Absa and this whole tap-to-pay revolution, how do you guys think that you've been leveraging that new technology? And are there plans to develop an in-house or in-app Absa tap-to-pay function?
Yes. So if you look at how the tap-to-pay function works, in some cases you are restricted by what it can and can't do, especially when it comes to Apple phones. So the tap-to-pay function, when developed by yourself, actually doesn't work on an Apple phone. On an Android phone, with certain manufacturers, it is capable. But if we then think about, how do we do this in the best way for the customer to think, well, how do I enroll my card? If I've got an Apple phone, and you think about this, if I've got that phone, if I've got a Samsung phone, how do I do that? And so on and so forth. So in terms of what we have done is we have allowed all of our cards to be enrolled on all of our devices via the phone's operating system. Now, on our mobile app, we are able to easily, from the virtual card capability, easily push that into the operating system. So in other words, from the mobile app, you can say, I want to use Apple Pay, and it'll work on your Apple device via that particular mechanism. But when you go into the world of Android, there are hundreds of different manufacturers. And the way to actually streamline that particular process is you make your cards capable on any of those operating systems. So if you've got a Samsung, you can still use it. If you've got a Huawei, you can still use it, and so on and so forth. And the process that we have designed in conjunction with those operating manufacturers are actually quite seamless. So if you go into Samsung Pay, for example, or Garmin Pay, it is, you simply just follow the prompts, enter your card details, and a simple verification on our phone will allow that to function. Now, we've got many other plans on what we are going to introduce, not only into the mobile app, but all our digital systems to simplify and expand the payments landscape, right? Because the tap to pay works fantastically if you're in that market where you have access to people that are accepting payments on POS machines and so on and so forth. So when you work in the payments world, you actually have to think about all the other different possibilities. How do you enable collections in a more informal settlement? How do you enable payments where there are no POS machines? And also with load shedding systems the way it is, how do you do offline transactions and so on and so forth? So in our plans, we are thinking about all of these particular problems and looking at what are the most simple ways and what are the most effective ways on solving all of these problems as a payment ecosystem, and not just focusing on maybe one or two features, but rather looking at the problem holistically.
And you speak of challenges such as load shedding, and you mention offline banking. What are some of the pros and, of course, the cons of venturing into something like offline banking?
I guess our market provides unique challenges, right? So if you talk about things like this in other markets, they'll probably look at you funny. A digital person knows that I need data. I need to be connected to the ecosystem. But we know, because we see it around us, when the lights turn off, the mobile networks don't operate the way it is. The ability to have access to good data signals, and so on and so forth, they all diminish during these things. And so more people are asking the question, how can we do more? In a world where these things are not a problem, then no one is looking to solve them. But a key part of our thought process is how do you make it more accessible? How do you solve for these particular instances? And there's some very clever ideas that some people have come up with, and I think we have to watch the space in terms of what will come out into markets, in terms of how we do things in a different way.
Yeah, and just to dive straight into everyone's favorite topic, which is artificial intelligence. What is your personal take on artificial intelligence, especially from a South African point of view?
Yeah, I think we have many problems that AI can assist us with. And there's a lot of research, there's a lot of development, there's a lot of work that is going into how to utilize the AI the best way. Some of the examples that I've worked on, or our team has worked on, is we have tried to create chatbots that try and assist customer as your assistant, right? So as you start to offer a very wide range of services, one of the hardest things to do is, how do I know where to go to get that service? How do I know where to find it? How do I know how to do a transaction or something? When I use my app, how do I know if I'm doing it correctly?
Yeah.
And so one of the things that we are developing is a bot capability where you can simply chat to the bot, and it will look at our knowledge base, at our content, and give you the best possible answer in terms of, we think this is the right way to do it. But I didn't really want to stop there, because with ChatGPT and stuff like that, you could go and create a lot of content, stick it in a canned web, put that on an app. You ask a question and outputs an answer.
Yeah.
How does that help the customer? Because if you think about the real problem the customer is having is, I want to know how to check my proof of payment. I want to know how to get a statement.
Yeah.
So why don't you just give him a statement? Because if he asked that question, and if you understand that he asked that question, I believe that the bot should be able to help that customer fulfill the transaction. So a lot of what we're doing is not only teaching bots how to answer the question, but also actually fulfill the transaction. Now, you would have noticed that in the ChatWallet, for example, one of the reasons why we call it smart is we have built in a natural language understanding processes. So initially, when you first use the wallets, what you will do is you will try and follow the menus to say, I want to make a payment. The robot will instruct you and say, so who do you want to pay? How much do you want to pay? And so on and so forth. And you will answer the questions. But when we finish helping you do your first transaction, we'll give you a tooltip which says, the next time you want to make a payment, all you have to do is say, pay my wife 50 Rand, and it will do it for you. It'll probably ask you from which account if you have multiple accounts. but it'll ask you to confirm. Do you want to pay a vedna so much, and confirm, and that is the beauty of how we can use NLU and as well as some AI to be able to do that. But there are various use cases. It's also about how do we educate not only our youth, how do we educate people in the future, how do we educate our customers about finances and how they manage their finances and so on and so forth. And you can imagine the use cases in these areas are quite phenomenal, because we could bring in thought processes and content from all over the place and bring that in a more simplistic and meaningful way to the customers. I think these are opportunities that all need a significant level of exploration.
Do you think that AI has made it easier or harder to live in this new world that we have?
See, I think technical people get fascinated by the technology and the complexity of the work that they're doing. However, the proof of the pudding will come is when we can simplify what we are doing with the technology to make it easy for the customer, or to make it easy for the people that we're trying to serve, or the problem we're trying to solve for them. At the end of the day, the simple human connection, we believe, has not changed. At the end of the day, even in a world of artificial intelligence, you and I are still human.
Yeah.
And we crave human interaction, we crave human experiences. We want to remove the mundane from our lives. Nobody wants to mop and sweep. Yeah. So if you've got a robot that can do that, then it's something that you would live with. But imagine a world where we take away this conversation. Imagine a world where the human interaction ceases to exist. That, for me, I think is a bit different. So I think the real use cases that will take off and scale are those that remember that no matter how complicated the technology may be, the human experience is still got to be a simplistic one.
And, Absa is one of the oldest and most popular financial institutions in South Africa. When it comes to new technologies like your AI, and of course AI branches out into machine learning and all of that, what do you think it's important for financial institutions to try their best to educate their customers in terms of, okay, this is the new technology we have, and this is how we're going to use it to better your banking experience?
Yeah, I think over time, we have seen a history, both in our industry, in our sector, as well as capabilities that we offer as a bank. Over time, you see change happening. We have a museum next to our office where it is a very nostalgic experience walking through that and looking and remembering. Wow, do you remember when we used to have the P bank? And did you remember when we used to have the little, the little counters and so on and so forth? So we already, as a human species, have evolved over years. I think we as a financial institution have a responsibility that, first and foremost, we are striving always to protect the customer, to protect their safety, their security, their data, and so on and so forth. No matter how complicated the world gets, the fundamentals of what we do is still the same. We have to make sure that we are able to protect the person, use the services when they need to use it, and so on and so forth. And in trying to achieve that, yes, we may introduce more innovation, we may introduce more technology in being able to do that. But I think first and foremost, we must make it clear to the customer, why is it that we're trying to do that? And what is in it for the customer? What benefits are there for them? Why is it that this new technology that we're trying to bring in, why does it help the customer? And if you don't make it about the customer and you make it about technology for the sake of technology, then you find that those things are not as successful. I'll give you a real world example. I was responsible for migrating and introducing a new piece of technology where we had to use we had to move away from an old security protocol where SMSs would be used as a part of the security process. The problem with SMSs is it's very easy to clone a SIM, and it leads to lots of fraud. Now, if we put the customer at the center of the universe, how are we going to solve for that particular problem? And using two-factor authentication via a digital channel makes a lot of security sense. But if you don't explain that to the customer, it becomes a very difficult, why are you doing this? I like my SMS. Why is... And so we had to do a lot of work to explain the benefit and to explain to the customer why this particular process, which is as seamless, probably if anything, works better than the SMS system. But why would it be in their interest, and why is it more secure? And when we do that education and we put out the videos and we put out the content and we do speak to the customer, you find that the agreement and the adoption is so much better. And then once it becomes second nature, it now becomes the new norm.
And, of course, you mentioned that Absa has the chatbots and a little bit of some NLU inside the new ChatWallet. But looking in terms of the real future, like really far ahead, are there plans from Absa to do more with AI, or is this okay for now?
You're asking me a very interesting question. The simple answer is yes. We are always looking at every opportunity on and how we're going to use that to bring it into a significant market offering. So there's a number of projects already underway as well, that is looking to not only enhance what we've got, but also introduce new capabilities. Some of the projects we're working on actually in the AI space is used to actually help out our colleagues. So a significant part of our job is to make sure that we are either serving the customer or serving the people that serve the customer. Yeah. Now, one of the things that we've got to think about is how do we make it easier for our colleagues to serve the customer in the best particular way? Now, when you are a bank as large as ours and you have many different products and services, it becomes very difficult for a colleague to know everything there is to know about helping the customer in the most effective way. And you can immediately see how an AI system where the colleague could simply ask a question and the knowledge of what the actual answers should be to help the customer in the best way is provided to that colleague to help that customer. So those are examples of projects that are already underway, and they are also examples of projects we're currently working on where we want to take new things into the market as well.
And with every new technology comes people who are skeptical and people who probably are like, let's just all slow down a little bit and remember that we are all just humans. When it comes to regulation, especially in the fintech industry, how is Absa navigating this ever-changing landscape, especially now with digitization taking over?
Yeah, so I think first and foremost, regulation exists to safeguard the interests of the country, the interests of the customer, and so on and so forth. Nobody comes up with a regulation just to be difficult. Yeah, and I think if we have that mindset and we have the understanding that we are working in a financial institution and managing risk, managing regulation is part of what we do. It is part of the DNA of a financial organization because it is a reality of the world in which we operate. And it is our responsibility, therefore, to not only is to innovate within that environment and to create a culture of innovation where risk management, regulatory management is not seen as a barrier, but actually seen as an opportunity. And a lot of what we do in our digital space is to actually see that as a blessing because it gives us the opportunity to think about things in a completely different way. Because of the regulatory framework, we actually know the processes of actually onboarding a customer, for example. And it's up to us to innovate around those frameworks. And there's enough freedom within our regulatory framework in terms of how you can innovate in this particular space. So for us, I think managing these things are part of of the nature of the work we do, and we don't necessarily see it as an inhibitor, but rather as something that actually gives us fuel. In terms of sometimes people like to use the word where they do a comparison between the fintech industry or startup industry and maybe the more established players.
Yeah.
I think one of the advantages we have is because we've been doing this for a long time, we actually understand the regulatory environment a lot better, and we understand the management of the risk environment, the regulatory environment very, very well. And in addition to that, what we do know, and what I'm really proud of, is if you look at the legacy of innovation between the banking industry, right, and if you look at the regular banks, and you look at what they have brought to market in terms of how we have introduced ATMs, how we've introduced internet banking, how we've introduced mobile banking, and so on and so forth. A lot of times I get asked the question around, but aren't you worried about the fintech? So how are you going to work with in the world of fintechs? And I'm like, one of the largest fintechs in our industry is the banks themselves. Because if you look at the amount of R&D, the amount of investment, the amount of projects that are going in this particular space by the established players, you then have to think about, well, they're not just I hate that word, legacy. Yeah, they're not just legacy. They actually are a significant player in the innovation space.
Yeah. And, obviously strides need to be made, whether there's regulations or not. Some people might say that South Africa has probably one of the best banking sectors in the world. I mean, we're always innovating, always changing. And unlike some, we don't use old technologies anymore. Do you think that the regulations we have in this country around the fintech sector make it easier for South Africa's fintech industry to keep on getting better? Or do you think maybe it's because we've seen that, okay, maybe it's better if we do it this way instead of that way?
See, I think the different players in the industry have a mandate that they are responsible for. And I think when you view things from another person's eyes, or me trying to make a comment about a startup, it's very difficult when you're not in that person's shoes. So if you're in that person's shoes, they probably say it is very difficult to get access to finance. It's very difficult to get access to venture capital funding, or there's a lot of red tape that you've got to go through to start a business, and so on and so forth. But if you think about it from the eyes of the regulator, or whose mandate it is to protect the needs of the country, to protect the needs of the financial sector, to protect the needs of the customer base, and so on and so forth, you have a more sober view of it, right? And yes, they may not, they don't have the luxury of taking a chance on something that's trendy. They have to make sure that it establishes properly. They might have to make sure that the kinks are gone off. Now, and then probably look at changing how they do things over time. And there's enough evidence for us to say that the environment within which we operate changes over time, and regulations do change over time as things become more embedded in a different particular way. So for me, I think our framework of whether it's good or bad, I think is actually maybe the more boring question, which is actually it is what it is. Yeah. And yes, we can influence, and yes, we can, because in our regulatory space, all our regulators are very open to dialogue, very open into new ideas, very open into hearing about how we can create a better environment for everybody, but not forgetting their mandate. Yeah. So I think the more important question is, how do we actually use the frameworks that we have to our advantage? And when you compare ourselves to economies, I was in Dubai in December, and our banking industry is a lot better than theirs. And if you just look at how long it takes to open an account, how long it takes to get a card delivered, and so on and so forth, compared to what we used to, there's a significant difference. But you would think that is a financial sector that had less regulation in terms of perception. But in reality, it's not necessarily the truth of the matter. And I guess for me, I'm quite cautious in trying to make assumptions on based on somebody else's viewpoint, but rather I like to put myself in that person's shoes. So if I'm a startup, I can understand it's quite difficult to get in these things, but the way I like to see it is the best startups in the world, the unicorns that were ever launched, the ones that have now grown into significant businesses, they were only able to achieve that by overcoming significant levels of adversity and significant levels of barriers that they had to overcome. If it wasn't a regulatory challenge, it's probably some other challenge. If it wasn't a funding challenge, it's something else. So my final probably word on the innovation space is this: challenges are normal. Yeah. It is more about understanding the customer and understanding the environment and the market within you working, and use your creativity within that. Spending too much time wondering about if only it was different will just mean that the challenges will be of a different order.
And just to sort of take it back to the user, which is basically what you've been saying is the center of Absa's everyday banking, is how can we make it better and easier for the user? Looking forward, what are some of the innovations or some of the products or solutions that Absa is looking to launch to make the user experience better for its customers?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question. I'm not sure if I want to tell you too much about the things before they launch, but obviously, if we just talk about the wallet, for example, this is only our first go-to-market. Yes, our plans for the wallet is quite. We have a long list of roadmap items. We want to make it more simpler for you to even open an account. So at the moment, you have to scan your face, enter in a few things. It takes a few minutes, and you can transact instantly. But how can we do that even simpler? Is there a way that we could do that without you having to do almost anything?
Yeah.
And that's something that's deep into the pipeline, and it's probably going to happen in the wallet very soon. But I said we want to make it more open in terms of being able to use where you can do collections, where you can do more payments, where you can actually use it on a POS machine. How do you use it to send money overseas to your loved ones, in other neighboring countries and things like that? These are all part of the thought of the let's call it what we call the roadmap. For development in the, let's call it, the chat space. In the AI space, there's a number of things that we want to do to make it easier for the customers to transact on our existing products and services. And then there's a number of really interesting innovations, which I don't really want to talk about, but we believe that these are going to be quite significant, and again will change the way we look at what is possible in our market.
And just looking at, obviously, digitization does mean the user experience does get better for the user, and it might just get a little bit harder for the one who's providing this experience. Looking at everyday banking, how is Absa looking, to, how can I explain it? Sort of, what are some of the fun things that people can look forward to, especially because, as you've mentioned, that Absa is a legacy bank, as some might call it. Why is it so important that you guys digitize this user experience?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, one of the reasons why we digitize the user experience is because a significant number of our customers demand it, right? What we know is, if you look at our everyday banking, some of our core segments, 77% of them almost never go to a branch. Yeah. So if you look at those particular segments in terms of the banking in our customer base, they don't want to get out of the way, go to a branch to do anything, and therefore being able to serve those customers digitally becomes the most viable option. It is an option that we need to do in a more meaningful way. And then there are other problems that need solving as well, in terms of how do we provide access to customers that don't have readily available data signals, and sometimes it's not so much as the data cost itself, but because we already provide reverse billing where we on our digital platforms where we will pick up the data cost. but the access to a signal and being able to get a signal and get a good signal to be able to do these things. So these become ever more items that need solving, but in a meaningful way. And then in terms of how do we create a customer experience, I think first and foremost the trust that you generate through being consistent. So if your payment works one day, it doesn't work the next day, it becomes a very difficult thing. So before we think about the cool and fun stuff, I always make sure that the things that we promise to do and do it well needs to happen all the time. So we consistently need to be up. We consistently need to make sure that our channels are there to serve our customers, whether it's daytime, weekends, month ends. There is no sleep for these type of systems. And then we do know mistakes happen, or we do know things happen, but we need to take responsibility for those things and make sure that they don't happen again. And by creating that level of trust, it gives you room to do the fun things. And then the fun things is, last year we do a little Easter egg hunt where you go find a little Easter egg in the app, and if you find it cracks open, you collect them, and you win a prize. I mean, those fun things are always there. Our Absa Advantage challenges are always on, where you can do fun things and get a hamburger, or in my case, a more vegetarian friendly meal. But those are fun things that are always out there. But to do the fun things, you've got to earn the trust, and you've got to earn the right to do the fun things.
And just so our viewers know, the ChatWallet is now available for anyone to download, or is it still just for Absa customers?
No. The ChatWallet is available for anybody to download. You don't have to download. So all you have to do is say hi to our WhatsApp number, and the chatbot will do the rest. You will start to see people that don't bank with Absa, when they get a cash send, it'll ask you, do you want to take your money out of the ATM, or do you want to keep it in the ChatWallet? And you have the choice as a customer to do that. And the process of actually using the wallet is so simplistic that it's just an agreement and a chat.
It sounds like Absa has some exciting things coming for its customers, and I'm sure everyone can't wait to see what it is.
Yeah, it is very exciting times. Lots of scary times for us who have to build these things and make sure we keep these promises. But very exciting times. And I think you should just watch the space, because there's a number of announcements that will be coming.
And I'm sure here at ITWeb we will keep all the viewers and all Absa customers up to date with your exciting innovations. And thank you so much, Subash, for joining us today on ITWeb TV. It's been really amazing. I've learned a lot today, and I hope you've enjoyed your time here with us.
It's been a fabulous time. Thank you for having me. And look forward to doing it again someday.
And to our viewers, thank you so much for being with us today. Remember to like, post, share, and subscribe to ITWeb TV. We'll see you again next time. This episode of ITWeb TV is brought to you in association with ITWeb Security Summit, the must-attend gathering for IT, security, and business decision makers. Visit itweb.co.za for more information.